He accused her of stealing and threw her out. 4 years later, he saw 2 little girls with his eyes standing beside her. What hidden truth had she carried alone? Was it too late to mend the unforgivable? Witness a gripping tale of heartbreaking dismissal, a shocking discovery, and the relentless pursuit of a second chance. Watch now and tell us, can some mistakes ever truly be forgiven? The CEO's reckoning, a triumph of resilience. Eleanor Davies looked at herself in the mirror, adjusting her brown hair. Her eyes, once bright, now reflected a sadness she couldn't hide. The house, though luxurious, felt like a gilded cage, where she had been trapped for 10 years. "Eleanor, where's my blue shirt?" Andrew Blackwood's voice boomed from the master bedroom. She sighed, knowing another morning of reproaches had begun. "It's in the closet, Andrew. I ironed it last night," she replied, trying to keep the calm in her voice. "I always have to ask you everything. Can't you be more organized?" Andrew appeared in the doorway, his imposing figure casting a shadow over her. He was a successful man, owner of several companies, and he never let Eleanor forget it. The routine was always the same. Eleanor prepared breakfast, organized the house, and tried to please her husband in everything, but nothing was ever enough. Each day, the criticisms became more hurtful. "Look at Robert's wife," Andrew commented, while sipping his coffee. "She runs 3 businesses, and you do nothing productive with your life." Eleanor pressed her lips together, holding back tears. She remembered when they married, how Andrew had convinced her to quit her job as a teacher to dedicate herself to their home. Now he used that same decision to humiliate her. During business dinners, Andrew presented her as an ornament, interrupting her when she tried to join conversations. "My wife doesn't know much about these topics," he would say with a condescending smile that made Eleanor want to disappear. Nights were worse. Andrew would arrive home late, smelling of expensive perfume that wasn't hers, ignoring the dinners she meticulously prepared. "I'm not hungry," he'd murmur, locking himself in his study with a glass of whiskey. Eleanor wondered how she had allowed her life to become this. The ambitious young woman she once was seemed a distant memory, replaced by a woman she barely recognized in the mirror. One afternoon, while cleaning Andrew's study, she found a message on his phone. "See you tonight, my love, Victoria." The message glowed on the screen like a silent confession of what she already suspected. The reality hit her like a cold wave. Her marriage was not only unhappy, it was a lie. And as she watched the city from her window, Eleanor didn't know that soon her life would take a dramatic turn. One that would force her to rediscover who she really was. The gilded cage shatters. What would you do if you discovered your entire marriage was a lie? Share your immediate reaction and advice in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the raw confrontation to come. That Thursday afternoon, Eleanor decided to confront Andrew. She waited for him in the main living room with his phone in her hand and the evidence of his infidelity. The photos she had found on his computer showed Andrew with Victoria Smith in different luxury restaurants, sharing kisses and caresses that should have belonged to her. When Andrew walked through the door, his face changed upon seeing Eleanor sitting in the dark. "Who is Victoria?" Eleanor asked, her voice trembling slightly. Andrew showed no surprise or shame. Instead, a cruel smile spread across his face. "It was about time you found out," he replied, loosening his tie. "Victoria is everything you are not. She's young, ambitious, intelligent." "How long?" Eleanor interrupted, clenching her fists. 6 months. And you know what, Eleanor? They've been the best 6 months of my life." Andrew poured himself a drink as if he were discussing the weather. "She understands the business world, knows how to behave in society. Not like you, who only know how to be a kept woman." The words hit Eleanor like slaps. And our marriage? The 10 years together? Marriage? Andrew let out a bitter laugh. This was never a marriage, Eleanor. It was a mistake I made when I was young and stupid, and it's time to correct it. He headed to the bedroom and began to pull Eleanor's clothes from the closet, throwing them onto the floor. I want you to leave. Now. You can't do this, Eleanor protested, following him. This is my home too. Your home? Andrew looked at her with contempt. Everything is in my name. The house, the cars, the bank accounts. You have nothing. In a matter of minutes, Eleanor's belongings were scattered at the front entrance. Curious neighbors watched from their windows as Andrew threw the last suitcases onto the street. And don't try to seek legal help, Andrew warned from the doorway. My lawyers will destroy you. Besides, with what money would you pay a lawyer? The door slammed shut with a dry thud, leaving Eleanor alone on the street, surrounded by her belongings. The tears she had held back for years finally burst forth, mixing with the rain that had begun to fall. Her phone rang. It was a message from Victoria. Thanks for stepping aside, darling. I'll send you an invitation to our wedding. That night, sitting in a cheap hotel, Eleanor understood she had hit rock bottom. But in the midst of her pain, a spark of determination began to grow. This humiliation would be her starting point, not her end. Stripped of everything, Eleanor faces her darkest hour. What incredible strength would it take to rise from this devastating betrayal? Share your inspiring thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the journey of resilience. The following days were a nightmare for Eleanor. The cheap hotel consumed her last savings in a week, forcing her to look for a more modest room in a distant neighborhood. Every call to her supposed friends ended the same way. Awkward excuses and empty promises to call later. I'm sorry, Eleanor, but you understand it's complicated, Maria told her, her best friend for years. Andrew is a very influential man, and my husband does business with him. Doors closed one after another. The same people who once enjoyed her dinners and parties now pretended not to know her. The social circle she believed was hers turned its back without hesitation. One desperate morning, she tried to withdraw money from her joint account. The bank teller looked at her with pity. I'm sorry, madam. The account has been closed. Andrew had been meticulous. All the cards were blocked, the accounts empty. Even her jewelry, which she kept in a safe deposit box, had disappeared. Your husband came yesterday with the necessary documents, the bank manager explained. At the restaurant where she used to have lunch, the maitre d' stopped her at the entrance. Excuse me, Mrs. Davies, but we have orders not to serve you. Your husband, that is, Mr. Blackwood. The humiliations piled up. One day, while walking through the shopping center, she saw Victoria trying on a wedding dress in the city's most exclusive boutique. Through the glass, Victoria looked at her and smiled maliciously, modeling the dress as if it were a trophy. Nights were especially hard. In her small rented room, Eleanor scrolled through old photos on her phone. Images of trips, parties, moments that seemed happy, but now revealed a painful truth. Her entire life had been built on a lie. Madam, I need this month's rent, the room owner reminded her. If you can't pay, I'll have to ask you to leave. With her last few pounds, Eleanor bought a newspaper and started looking for work. But her lack of recent work experience was an obstacle. 10 years out of work, interviewers would ask, looking at her CV with skepticism. One afternoon, sitting on a park bench, she overheard two women talking. Did you hear? Andrew Blackwood has already announced his engagement to that girl, Victoria. They say the wedding will be the event of the year. Eleanor clenched her fists until her knuckles turned white. Rage and powerlessness consumed her, but also something else, a fierce determination. She couldn't go on like this. She needed to find a way out, even if it meant starting from the very bottom. The corner cafe was far from glamorous, but it was the only place that gave her a chance. "Do you have experience as a waitress?" asked Mrs. Carter, the owner, a stout woman with kind eyes. "No," Eleanor admitted, "but I learn fast." "Well, everyone deserves a chance," Mrs. Carter replied, handing her a blue apron. "You start tomorrow at 6 it was." The first few weeks were exhausting. Her hands, once soft and pampered, were now rough from the work. Her feet ached after hours of standing, and hot coffee burns became frequent. But for the first time in years, Eleanor felt she was doing something for herself. "You have to hold the tray like this," Julia, a young waitress who became her first real friend in a long time, taught her. "And don't let difficult customers get to you. Here, we're all equal." One morning, while cleaning tables, Eleanor overheard two customers talking about her. "Isn't that Andrew Blackwood's ex?" one whispered. "Look how she ended up. A waitress." Tears threatened to fall, but Eleanor stood firm. Julia, who had overheard everything, approached during her break. "You know what? My mom always says falling isn't what matters. It's how you get up," Julia said, sharing her sandwich with her. "And you, my friend, you're getting up with dignity." From luxury to a cafe, Eleanor fights to rebuild her life. What incredible strength does it take to find dignity in the face of such adversity? Share your empowering thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for her inspiring transformation. Little by little, Eleanor found a routine. She woke up before dawn, arrived early to prepare the cafe, and took advantage of every free moment to learn about the business. Mrs. Carter noticed her dedication and began to teach her about basic management. "You have a good head for numbers," Mrs. Carter observed one afternoon as they reviewed inventory. "And customers appreciate you. There's something special about you, girl." The salary was modest, but Eleanor learned to manage it. She rented a more decent room, started saving, and at night, she studied basic accounting through free online videos. "I'm not always going to be a waitress," she confided to Julia one night as they closed the shop. "This is just the beginning." "I know," Julia replied with a smile. "You have that look, like someone planning something big." In her small room, Eleanor taped a paper to the wall with a phrase that had become her mantra. "Never again will I depend on anyone." Every night, before going to sleep, she read it aloud, promising herself that her story was just beginning. Hard work and daily humiliations would not break her. For the first time in her life, Eleanor was building something of her own, even if it was from the most basic foundations. It was a Tuesday like any other at the corner cafe. Eleanor was cleaning tables while humming a song when the bell at the door rang. Without looking up, she pulled out her notepad and approached the new table. "Good morning. What can I get you?" The words froze in her mouth. Standing before her was Richard Hayes, her first love from youth, so elegant in his tailored suit that he completely mismatched the modest establishment. "Eleanor?" The surprise in his voice was genuine. "I can't believe it. Is that you?" Richard had changed. He was no longer the idealistic young man she knew from university. Now he was one of the country's most successful businessmen. His face appeared frequently in business magazines. "Yes, it's me," she replied, conscious of her stained apron and carelessly tied hair. "Black coffee as always. It's been 15 years, and you still remember how I take my coffee." Richard smiled, his eyes studying every detail of her face. "Sit with me, please." "I'm working, Richard. 5 minutes. It's the least you owe me after all this time." Mrs. Carter, who had been observing the scene, gave her a nod of approval. Lucy sat down uncomfortably, fiddling with her notepad. "What happened, Eleanor? Last I heard, you were married to, what was his name?" Andrew, she replied dryly. We're no longer together. Richard nodded, connecting the dots. News of the scandal had circulated in the business world, though he never imagined Eleanor would end up like this. Let me help you, he offered. I have several businesses. I could— No, Eleanor interrupted him. I appreciate your offer, but I don't need charity. It's not charity, it's an opportunity. The same Eleanor I knew, the one who wanted to conquer the world. Where is she? That Eleanor no longer exists, she replied, standing up. Anything else with your coffee? Yes. Richard pulled a business card from his wallet. My number. When you're ready to remember who you really were, call me. That night, in her small apartment, Eleanor looked at Richard's card. The logo of his companies shone in golden letters, mocking her current situation. She remembered her university years, when she and Richard dreamed of the future. He had always believed in her, even when their paths diverged. Why now? She whispered to the darkness, putting the card in a drawer. But a part of her, the one that had been dormant for years, was beginning to awaken. A past love reappears, offering a lifeline. What do you think Eleanor will decide? Is it wise to accept help from someone from her past? Share your advice in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the next chapter of her powerful transformation. For a week, Eleanor ignored Richard's card. She stuck to her routine at the cafe, but his words resonated in her mind. Where is the Eleanor who wanted to conquer the world? One Thursday, while counting change from the till, Richard appeared again. The coffee here is surprisingly good, he said, sitting at the counter. Or is it the waitress? Are you stalking me? Eleanor asked, pouring coffee without him asking. No, I'm just persistent with good investments. Investments? Your potential, Eleanor. I see it as clearly as I did 15 years ago. I know you refused my help, but at least hear my proposal. Mrs. Carter intervened. Sweetie, take a break. I'll take the counter. At a secluded table, Richard explained his idea. He needed someone to manage a new project in his company. Someone with a natural business acumen, but without the vices of the corporate world. You'd start from the bottom, of course, he clarified, but with a real opportunity to grow. Why me? Eleanor asked. There are thousands of more qualified people. Because I remember the student who got top grades effortlessly, the one who organized university events better than professionals, the one who had a unique vision for business. That girl died a long time ago, Richard. No, she's just asleep, and it's time for her to wake up. Eleanor looked at her hands, rough from work. I'm scared, she admitted. The last time I trusted someone. I'm not Andrew, Richard interrupted her. I'm not offering you a rescue. I'm offering you an opportunity to rescue yourself. That night, after closing the cafe, Julia found her thoughtful. Are you going to accept? Her friend asked. How do you know? Because ever since that man appeared, your eyes shine differently, as if you've remembered something important. Eleanor hugged Mrs. Carter and Julia. I promise I'll come visit you. You better, Mrs. Carter replied with tears in her eyes. And when you're a successful businesswoman, don't forget where you started. The next day, Eleanor entered the imposing building of Hayes & Company. Her clothes were modest, bought with her cafe savings, but her posture was different. For the first time in years, she walked tall, with determination. Good morning, Richard greeted her in his office. Ready to start? Eleanor nodded, feeling something awakening within her. It wasn't the end of her story of overcoming adversity, but just the true beginning. A new chapter begins. Do you believe Eleanor can truly succeed in the corporate world after so long? What challenges do you foresee for her? Share your insights in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for her incredible rise. The first month at Hayes & Company was brutal. Eleanor started in the sales department, but the pace and competitiveness of the corporate environment overwhelmed her. Her first meetings were a disaster. She forgot financial terms and felt out of place in conversations. "You have a natural gift for this," Sarah, her supervisor, commented after Eleanor closed her first major sale. "You know how to read people, understand what they really need." During team meetings, Eleanor began to stand out. Her proposals were innovative, blending her experience in direct customer service from the cafe with the corporate strategies she was learning. "Your presentation on the new product line was excellent," Richard told her one afternoon, visiting her in her small office. "How did you come up with that approach?" "At the cafe, I learned that every customer is a different world," she replied. "We don't sell products. We sell solutions to specific problems." Richard smiled, remembering the brilliant student he had known years ago. "You know what? Andrew was an idiot not to see your potential. Andrew saw exactly what he wanted to see, someone he could control," Eleanor replied, with no trace of bitterness in her voice. "But that doesn't matter anymore." Weeks turned into months. Eleanor absorbed knowledge like a sponge, staying late to study financial terms, market strategies, and business management. Her colleagues noticed her dedication. "It's incredible," David, the financial director, commented to Richard. "She has an analytical capacity that many executives with years of experience would envy." One afternoon, during a crisis with an important client, Eleanor took the initiative. While everyone else panicked, she remained calm and developed a strategy that not only saved the contract, but improved it. "How did you know what to do?" Richard asked later. "When you've hit rock bottom," she replied, "you learn to see crises as opportunities." In her apartment, now more comfortable, though still modest, Eleanor created a study corner. The walls were covered with notes, charts, and business plans. Her mind, dormant for years of marriage, blossomed with ideas and projects. One morning, while reviewing quarterly results, Eleanor realized something. She was no longer the scared woman who had walked out of Andrew's house. This new version of herself was stronger, more capable, more real. "Your talent was always there," Richard told her during a business dinner. "You just needed the opportunity to rediscover it." Eleanor smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning of her transformation. The changes in Eleanor weren't just professional. Her way of dressing, speaking, moving through the world had evolved. She no longer looked down when speaking or apologized constantly. The confidence she exuded was magnetic. "We need you to lead the Project Phoenix," Richard announced during an executive meeting. "It's a £50 million account." The other executives exchanged surprised glances. It was a crucial project for the company, and Eleanor had only been with them for 8 months. "Are you sure?" asked Robert, one of the oldest directors. "It's an enormous responsibility." "Completely," Richard replied. "Eleanor has exactly what we need." In the following weeks, Eleanor immersed herself in the project. Her nights were filled with strategic planning and international calls. During the day, she led a team of 20 people, earning their respect not by imposition, but by competence. "It's different working with you," Anna, one of the analysts, commented to her. "You don't treat us as subordinates, but as collaborators." The project advanced successfully, but something else was happening. Richard and Eleanor spent more and more time together, working late, sharing business dinners that turned into personal conversations. "Do you remember our first date at university?" Richard asked one night while reviewing documents. "That dreadful coffee shop near campus where the waiter spilled soda on your new shirt," Eleanor completed, smiling. "But I'm not talking about that, Richard. I can't." "I know," he replied softly. "You have to heal first. I understand." Eleanor focused on work, but her emotions were complicated. The attraction between them was evident, but the fear of repeating past mistakes held her back. One afternoon during a crucial presentation, Eleanor shone. Her mastery of the subject, her stage presence, her ability to answer difficult questions impressed everyone. Project Phoenix closed successfully, exceeding expectations. "You are an extraordinary woman," Richard told her at the celebration. "You always were, but now everyone can see it." "Thank you for believing in me," she replied. "But this achievement is mine." "I know," he smiled, "and that's what makes it more special." In her office, now on the executive floor, Eleanor contemplated the city. Her reflection in the glass showed her the image of a confident, powerful woman. The wounds of the past were still there, but they no longer defined her future. Her phone rang. It was Julia, her friend from the cafe. "How's my favorite businesswoman?" she joked. "Busy but happy," Eleanor replied. "For the first time in my life, truly happy." Eleanor's incredible ascent continues. What do you think this newfound success and independence will mean for her future? And for her relationship with Richard? Share your inspiring thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the final, satisfying chapters. The news spread like wildfire through the business world. Eleanor Davies had been named CEO of Hayes Innovations, the most promising division of Richard's companies. Economic newspapers highlighted her meteoric rise and her brilliant management of Project Phoenix. "It's incredible how she transformed the sales department," corporate whispers buzzed, "from an unknown to the executive of the year." High society, which had once rejected her, now courted her. Invitations to exclusive events arrived daily. This time, however, Eleanor walked through the main door, with her own achievements as her calling card. "Mrs. Davies, would you grant us an interview?" a journalist from Modern Executive magazine asked. "Your story inspires many women." The same people who had once turned their backs on her now sought her friendship. Maria, her former best friend, tried to contact her several times. "Eleanor, darling, how long has it been?" She approached her at a charity event. "I always knew you were special." "Really?" Eleanor replied with a polite but cold smile. "You didn't seem so sure when I needed your help." In board meetings, Eleanor proved to be a formidable strategist. Her personal experience had given her a unique perspective on clients' real needs. Under her leadership, Hayes Innovations doubled its profits in 6 months. "Your success is due to your authenticity," Richard told her during a business dinner. "You don't try to imitate anyone. You've created your own leadership style." Eleanor's office on the top floor of the corporate building was a testament to her evolution. Photos with business leaders, awards, and recognitions decorated the walls. But in a discreet corner, she kept a photo of the corner cafe team, to never forget her roots. "Do you know what's most satisfying?" she confided to Julia during one of her regular visits to the cafe. "It's not the money or the power. It's knowing that I achieved it by myself." Her new status opened doors that were previously closed. She was invited to give lectures at universities, where she shared her story of overcoming adversity, without mentioning Andrew. She didn't need to use her past as a crutch. Her present spoke for itself. Business magazines described her as the new face of female leadership. Her management style, which combined efficiency with empathy, became a case study in business schools. "What's your secret?" a young student asked her during a lecture. "There's no secret," Eleanor replied. "Just hard work, authenticity, and the willingness to get up after every fall." In her personal life, Eleanor had found balance. She maintained a small but loyal circle of true friends, and her relationship with Richard, though complex, was based on mutual respect and admiration. One afternoon, while signing some multi-million-pound contracts, her assistant informed her that Andrew had tried to schedule a meeting with her. "Tell him I'm busy," she replied without looking up. "Very busy building my empire." Eleanor's empire is rising, but Andrew's world is crumbling. What do you think his ultimate downfall will be? Share your predictions for this poetic justice in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the ultimate reckoning. As Eleanor's success grew, Andrew's life began to unravel. It all started with small signs that he, blinded by his arrogance and Victoria's toxic love, failed to see. "I need a new car, darling," Victoria insisted. "That Porsche we saw the other day would be perfect for me." Andrew, eager to keep his young fiancée happy, spent without measure. Credit card debts piled up, and expenses far exceeded income. Victoria had a special gift for finding new ways to spend money. "Another party?" his worried accountant asked. "Mr. Blackwood, the numbers don't add up. Your investments are losing value, and expenses are excessive." But Andrew didn't listen. He was too busy trying to impress Victoria and her circle of friends, all much younger than him, all experts at spending other people's money. "I have an incredible investment opportunity," Victoria told him one night. "My friend Mark has this cryptocurrency business. It's guaranteed, love. We can't miss out." Andrew invested £500,000 in Mark's scheme. 3 weeks later, the money had disappeared along with Mark. "You assured me it was safe," he yelled at Victoria. "Don't yell at me," she retorted threateningly. "Or do you want everyone to know how you treated your ex-wife?" Problems multiplied. Several of his important clients abandoned him, preferring to do business with more stable companies. Rumors about his financial difficulties began to circulate in the business world. "Blackwood's finished," they whispered at corporate cocktail parties. "They say he's selling properties to cover debts." One morning, Andrew arrived at his office to find several employees packing their things. His company was in freefall, and the shrewdest were already seeking other horizons. "Sir," his assistant nervously intercepted him, "the bank called. They want to schedule an urgent meeting about your loans." Debts accumulated like vultures over his head. Every desperate decision only worsened his situation. Victoria, meanwhile, began to distance herself. "I need time to think," she told him one night, after he refused to buy her a diamond bracelet. "Perhaps we should postpone the wedding." The final blow came when he discovered that Victoria had emptied his last bank accounts and disappeared with her supposed yoga instructor. "I'm sorry, love," read the note she left. "But I didn't marry you to be poor. Thanks for the good times." Sitting in his increasingly empty office, Andrew looked out the window at the Hayes Innovations building, where he knew Eleanor now held a prominent position. The irony of the situation was not lost on him. "Sir," his assistant interrupted, "the movers are here. They say they have to vacate the office today." Andrew nodded, defeated. In less than a year, he had lost everything: his money, his reputation, and his pride. And the worst was knowing that he himself had caused his own destruction. The mighty have fallen. Andrew's empire is in ruins, and karma delivers its bitter lesson. What do you think his final moments of reckoning will reveal? Share your thoughts on poetic justice in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the powerful conclusion. The Grand Business Ball was the most exclusive event of the year. At the luxurious Imperial Hotel, the business elite gathered to celebrate the sector's achievements. This year, the name on everyone's lips was Eleanor Davies. Is it true she doubled Hayes Innovations' profits in just 6 months? Guests asked. Eleanor arrived on Richard's arm, wearing an elegant black dress that accentuated her figure. Her presence caused a momentary silence in the ballroom. She was no longer Andrew Blackwood's timid wife. She was a force in her own right. "Radiant," Richard whispered as he led her through the room, "though I think some are more impressed by the last quarter's numbers than your dress." "Numbers never lie," she replied with a confident smile. At the other end of the room, Andrew saw her enter. He wore a suit that, though still expensive, showed signs of wear. His face had aged years and months. "Eleanor," he murmured, almost choking on his champagne. She noticed him, of course. It was impossible not to see the contrast. As she ascended, he fell. but she felt no joy in his misfortune, only a strange sense of closure. "Do you want to leave?" Richard asked, noticing Andrew. "No," she replied firmly. "This is my moment." During dinner, Eleanor was the keynote speaker. Her speech on innovation and leadership captivated the audience. Andrew, sitting at a distant table, watched her with a mixture of awe and regret. "Miss Davies," a group of investors approached after the speech. "Your vision for the future of the market is fascinating." Andrew tried to approach her several times during the night, but there was always someone else wanting to speak with Eleanor. She was the center of attention, the rising star everyone wanted to know. "You know what's most ironic?" Richard commented as they danced. "He never saw your true worth because he only saw what he wanted to see," Eleanor replied. A trophy, a possession. Finally, near the end of the night, Andrew managed to intercept her near the bar. "Eleanor, No," she interrupted him softly. "There's nothing to say, Andrew." "You look," he stammered. "Different," she completed. "I am different. I always was. You just never noticed." The conversation was interrupted by the sound of clinking glasses. The president of the business association was announcing the Entrepreneur of the Year. When Eleanor's name resonated through the ballroom, Andrew froze. She walked onto the stage. Radiant, powerful, as the room erupted in applause. Her acceptance speech was brief but impactful. "Success isn't about defeating others," she said, her gaze briefly meeting Andrew's. "It's about overcoming our own limitations." When she left the stage, Andrew had already gone, leaving behind a half-empty glass and the ghost of what once was. The days following the grand ball were torture for Andrew. His image appeared in the social pages, but not as the successful businessman he once was, but as a footnote in Eleanor's triumph. The Entrepreneur of the Year's ex-husband was seen leaving the event early, the newspapers reported. Photos showed him gaunt, with deep dark circles under his eyes and a crumpled suit. In his small rented apartment, very different from the mansion he once shared with Eleanor, Andrew spent hours looking at old photographs and newspaper clippings. "How could I have been so stupid?" he wondered, as he drank directly from a bottle of cheap whiskey. His calls were no longer answered. The same businessmen who once flattered him now avoided him, fearing his bad luck was contagious. The doors that once opened at his name now closed. "I'm sorry, Mr. Blackwood," the manager of his old club told him. "Your membership has been revoked due to non-payment." One desperate afternoon, he tried to enter the offices of Hayes Innovations. "I have to see Eleanor," he insisted at reception. "Tell her Andrew Blackwood is here." "I'm sorry, sir," the receptionist replied, with a mixture of pity and firmness. "Mrs. Davies is in an important meeting." As he was escorted out of the building, he saw Eleanor and Richard leaving together, laughing about something. She looked radiant, confident, powerful. Everything he had tried to suppress in her now shone with its own light. "Eleanor!" he yelled, but his voice was lost in the traffic noise. Rumors about his downfall multiplied. "Did you hear Blackwood's living on loans? They say Victoria took even his gold cufflinks. Looks like he drinks too much." The final humiliation came when he tried to get a job at a smaller company. "Your reputation precedes you, Mr. Blackwood," they told him. "We can't risk it." In a dingy bar, where he now spent most of his afternoons, Andrew saw a news segment on international expansion plans, new technologies, the future. "She was always like that," he murmured to himself. I just kept her locked up." The bartender, accustomed to his drunken monologues, poured him another drink without him asking. "You know what's the worst part?" Andrew continued, speaking to no one in particular. "It's not losing the money, not even the status. It's knowing that I had a diamond in my hands, and I treated it like glass." News kept coming. Eleanor expanding her empire, closing multi-million-pound deals, shining at every event. Meanwhile, Andrew sank deeper and deeper into his misery, consumed by regret and bitterness. One morning, looking at himself in the stained mirror of his bathroom, Andrew finally faced the truth. It wasn't Eleanor who had been empty all those years. It was him. The rain fell heavily when Andrew decided to make his last attempt. He waited outside the Hayes Innovations building for hours, soaked and trembling, until he saw Eleanor leave. "Please, just 5 minutes," he begged, stepping into her path. Eleanor observed him, the cheap suit, the face swollen from alcohol, the trembling in his hands. Her bodyguards tensed, but she stopped them with a gesture. 5 minutes, she conceded, leading him to a nearby cafe. "I love you, Eleanor," Andrew blurted out as soon as they sat down. "I've always loved you. I was an idiot, I know. But we can start over." Eleanor maintained her composure, taking a sip of coffee while studying him. The man who had once terrified her now seemed small, pathetic. "You know what's funny, Andrew? For years I believed I needed you, that without you I was nothing. It was the best gift you ever gave me when you threw me out of the house." "It was a mistake," he interrupted, desperate. "I was blinded by Victoria, by my ego. You're the only woman who truly—" "No," Eleanor cut him off. "I'm not the only one. I'm the one who's successful now. If I were on the street, you wouldn't even look at me." Tears began to stream down Andrew's face. "I can change. Give me a chance. I still have contacts. We could—" "Contacts?" Eleanor smiled sadly. "The same ones who are turning their backs on you now?" "No, Andrew. I didn't come here to humiliate you. I came to close this chapter." "What does Richard have that I don't?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Respect. For me, for my work, for who I am. Something you never understood." Andrew tried to take her hand, but she gently withdrew it. "I'm ruined, Eleanor. I have nothing. You could help me to—" "How you helped me when you threw me onto the street?" Her voice was firm, but without resentment. "No, Andrew. Your current situation is a result of your decisions, just as my success is a result of mine." "What am I going to do?" he sobbed. "The same thing I did. Start from scratch. Learn. Grow." She stood up, leaving money for the coffee. "But this time, do it for yourself, not to impress others." Before leaving, she stopped and looked at him one last time. "Thank you, Andrew." "Why?" he asked, confused. "For showing me how strong I can be. Goodbye." Andrew watched her walk away in the rain, her elegant figure disappearing into the crowd. He remained there alone, as Eleanor's words echoed in his mind. Outside, the driver opened the car door for Eleanor. "Everything all right, madam?" he asked, concerned. "Yes," she replied, looking one last time towards the cafe. "Everything is exactly as it should be." The city's most exclusive restaurant buzzed with activity that night. At the main table, Richard and Eleanor dined, surrounded by the country's most influential business people. The engagement ring on her left hand caught the candlelight, causing murmurs of admiration. "Did you hear?" a socialite whispered to her companion. "They say the wedding will be the event of the year." Andrew, sitting in a dark corner of the bar, watched the scene with a mixture of pain and resignation. He had entered wearing his last decent suit, spending the little he had left on a drink he hadn't even touched. "It's curious," Richard said aloud, making sure Andrew could hear. "Some men hold a treasure in their hands and don't know how to value it. Others wait years for the opportunity to show what true love can do." Eleanor's cheeks flushed slightly. "It's the truth, my love," he continued, raising his glass. "I propose a toast to the most extraordinary woman I've ever known, and to the future we will build together." Those present raised their glasses, while Andrew felt every word like a stab. The contrast couldn't be more painful. He, hidden in the shadows, while Eleanor shone under the spotlights. "More wine, sir?" the bartender asked Andrew. "No, I'm leaving," he replied, getting up with difficulty. As he passed the main table, Richard stopped him. "Andrew, what a surprise to see you here. Did you hear the good news?" Silence fell over the table. All eyes alternated between Andrew, Richard, and Eleanor. "Congratulations," Andrew murmured, his voice barely audible. "You should stay and celebrate," Richard insisted, his bright smile hiding a deeper satisfaction. "After all, if it weren't for you, Eleanor and I would never have reconnected." Eleanor watched the scene with a mix of emotions. She felt no pleasure in Andrew's humiliation, but she also couldn't deny the poetic justice of the moment. "Enough, Richard," she said softly, touching his arm. Andrew took the opportunity to escape, stumbling slightly as he headed for the exit. Muffled laughter followed him to the door. In the street, the rain had begun to fall. Without an umbrella and without dignity, Andrew walked aimlessly, his worn shoes splashing in puddles. "Andrew!" Richard's voice reached him on the pavement. "One last piece of advice. When you lose everything, remember that you dug your own grave." Andrew didn't reply. There was nothing to say. Richard's victory was complete. He had Eleanor's love, the respect of the business world, and the satisfaction of seeing his old rival completely defeated. As the taxi drove away, carrying the happy couple, Andrew remained in the rain, a ghost of the man he once was. In his pocket, the bar receipt marked his last expenditure in the world he once dominated. The following months witnessed Andrew Blackwood's final fall. The streets that had once seen him parade in luxury cars now saw him wandering aimlessly, seeking any opportunity to recover some of his old glory. "Is that Andrew Blackwood?" passers-by whispered. "It can't be. What happened to him?" His days became a depressing routine. He woke late in his small, cheap hotel room, paid week by week with the little he had left. Empty bottles accumulated in the corners, silent witnesses to his nights of self-pity. "Mr. Blackwood," the hotel manager told him one morning, "if you can't pay this week, you'll have to leave." He tried to contact his former partners, but doors closed before he could explain himself. His name, once synonymous with success, now provoked looks of pity and interrupted conversations. One day, desperate, he visited the building where his company used to be. The new owner had changed everything: the logo, the colors, even the name on the entrance. "Excuse me, can I help you?" the security guard asked, noticing his disheveled appearance. "No, I was just looking," Andrew replied, walking away with his head bowed. In the dingy bars of the city, he became a known figure, the fallen businessman who told stories of his old fortune to anyone who would listen, in exchange for a drink. "I was someone," he would repeat, his voice thick with alcohol. "I had everything: money, power, a beautiful woman." One afternoon, while walking through the financial district, he saw his reflection in the glass of a building. He barely recognized the man looking back at him. Messy hair, wrinkled clothes, eyes sunken from sleepless nights. "What happened to me?" he whispered to his reflection. The answer came in the form of a newspaper abandoned on a bench. In the business section, a photo of Eleanor announced the international expansion of Hayes Innovations. Her radiant smile contrasted with the memories Andrew held of her. He tried to write her a letter, but the words sounded empty, pathetic. Every draft ended up in the bin, along with the remnants of his dignity. "Karma is real," an old employee who recognized him on the street commented. "Everything he did, all the harm he caused, is finally catching up to him." The irony was not lost on him. He who had humiliated so many, who had treated people as stepping stones on his ladder to success, now experienced the same indifference he had so often dispensed. One night, sitting on a park bench, he pulled out his worn wallet. Among the folds, he found an old photo of his wedding to Eleanor. She smiled, genuinely happy, while he looked at the camera with arrogance. "I'm sorry," he murmured to the photograph, before a gust of wind carried it away, losing it forever in the darkness of the night. Eleanor's office, on the top floor of Hayes Innovations, offered a panoramic view of the city. From there, she could see the building where she once lived with Andrew, but she no longer felt anything looking at it. The past was just that. The past. "The last quarter's results are exceptional," commented Sarah, now her executive assistant. "Shares went up 40% since you took control." Eleanor smiled, reviewing the reports. Her desk was filled with new projects, expansion plans, and innovative proposals. Each document represented a victory, not over Andrew, but over her own fears. "Did you see the news about Andrew?" Sarah asked cautiously. "Yes," Eleanor replied calmly. "It's sad to see someone fall like that, but everyone reaps what they sow." Her wedding to Richard was approaching, but it wasn't the center of her life. Their relationship was based on mutual respect and admiration, not on the dependence that had characterized her previous marriage. "Are you ready for the interview?" Richard asked, popping into her office. Fortune magazine had chosen Eleanor for its cover. From waitress to mogul. "The Incredible Story of Eleanor Davies," the headline read. During the interview, the journalist touched on the topic of Andrew. "How do you feel seeing your ex-husband in his current situation?" Eleanor paused, carefully choosing her words. "I don't feel satisfaction in his downfall. What I feel is gratitude for the lesson I learned. Our worth doesn't depend on others, but on ourselves." That afternoon, she visited the corner cafe. Mrs. Carter welcomed her with a maternal hug. "Look at you," the old woman said proudly. "I always knew you were special." "I learned more here than at any university," Eleanor replied, sitting in her old spot at the counter. Julia, now the cafe manager, joined them. "Do you remember your first day? You were so scared." The three laughed, sharing memories. Eleanor had insisted on keeping her investment in the cafe anonymous, allowing Mrs. Carter to remain in charge. Back in her office, Eleanor found a letter without a sender. It was from Andrew. But she didn't even open it. She no longer needed his words, his apologies, or his regrets. "What do I do with this?" Sarah asked, pointing to the letter. "File it," Eleanor replied. "It's part of a story that has already ended." As the sun set over the city, Eleanor contemplated her reflection in the window. She was no longer the scared woman Andrew had expelled from his house. She was a complete, strong, free woman. The true victory, she thought, is not about money or power. It's about finding yourself. Her phone rang. Another successful deal. Another opportunity. Another step forward. Eleanor smiled, knowing her story had just begun. The Ritz Hotel ballroom glittered with golden lights during the annual business gala. Eleanor, radiant in a red gown, ascended the podium to receive the Businesswoman of the Decade award. Beside her, Richard watched with genuine pride and love. "Many ask me what the secret to success is," she began her speech. "The truth is there are no secrets, only hard work, determination, and the ability to believe in yourself, even when no one else does." Among the audience, Mrs. Carter and Julia applauded with tears in their eyes. Eleanor had invited them as her guests of honor, a constant reminder of where her journey had begun. A young journalist approached after the ceremony. "Mrs. Davies, how do you feel knowing your ex-husband was recently seen working as a salesman in a small shop?" Eleanor paused, thoughtful. "I wish him the best. Sometimes we need to lose everything to find our true path. Later that night, on the hotel terrace, Richard hugged her from behind as they contemplated the illuminated city. "Are you happy?" he asked. "More than happy," she replied. "I'm at peace." Eleanor's story became a symbol of overcoming adversity. In the universities where she lectured, young women looked at her with admiration, dreaming of following in her footsteps. But her greatest satisfaction didn't come from awards or recognition, but from the freedom she had found. The freedom to be herself, to make her own decisions, to build her destiny. And as the night progressed, Eleanor smiled, knowing that her true victory had not been overcoming Andrew, but finding herself in the process. The best revenge, she thought, is to be genuinely happy. Hello, everyone. If this story of love, overcoming adversity, and poetic justice touched your heart, don't hesitate to give it a like and share it with your friends and family. This is one of those stories that reminds us that there is always light at the end of the tunnel, and that true love arrives when we least expect it. Your support helps us continue creating inspiring content. And if you'd like to see more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the bell to not miss our next stories. We'd love to know where you're watching from. Comment what country you're from and tell us what part of the story you liked the most. Was it the moment Eleanor spilled the coffee? The conversation about fleeing versus risking? Or perhaps the proposal in the street? If you liked this story and want more content about authentic relationships, personal growth, and inspiring stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss our next stories. Your support helps us continue creating content that reaches the heart.